Have you ever stopped to think about a substance that is just everywhere? It's so woven into the fabric of our civilization, we hardly even notice it's there. At our celebrations, our funerals, our religious services, even our quiet nights at home. I'm talking, of course, about alcohol. But here's the thing, we're not just going to talk about what it is. We're going to dive into what it has meant to us, all throughout our shared history.
So, okay, let me ask you something. What do you think is humanity's oldest invention for the specific purpose of socializing? I mean, your mind might go to fire, right? Or music. Storytelling? All great guesses. But the actual oldest one we have hard evidence for? Well, it's probably not what you're thinking. Yeah, 13,000 years. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. That's how far back the proof goes. We're talking about a prehistoric burial cave in modern-day Israel, where scientists found traces of a wheat and barley beer in old stone mortars. And this wasn't for some casual get-together. They believe this ancient brew was for ritual feasts to honor the dead. So right from the very beginning, alcohol was tied to something deep, our connection with each other and with the big mysteries of life and death.
And that right there is the central paradox we're diving into. For literally thousands of years, alcohol has been two completely contradictory things at the exact same time. On the one hand, it's this sacred thing, a sacrament, a gift that fuels creativity and builds community. And on the other, it's a societal scourge, a source of incredible disease and social pain. So how can one substance possibly be both? All right, so let's tackle the first half of this paradox. This is the side of the story we don't talk about much anymore. Alcohol as a building block of civilization. For most of our history, it wasn't seen as a vice. It was more like a vital technology for our social and spiritual lives. And what's crazy is that this wasn't some one-time invention that spread. People figured out fermentation all over the world completely independently. You've got rice wine in Neolithic China, grape wine in Georgia and Iran. And get this, a brewery in ancient Egypt that was cranking out 300 gallons a day. It's like the impulse to make this stuff is just baked into our DNA. You even see it in our oldest surviving stories. Take the Epic of Gilgamesh. There's this part where the wild man Enkidu becomes civilized, and one of the ways he does it is by learning to drink beer. The text literally says he becomes elated and sings with joy. I mean, the message couldn't be clearer, right? To the ancients, alcohol was part of becoming fully human. And in places like ancient Egypt, it wasn't just for parties. Alcohol was literally woven into the social structure. So beer, that was for the everyday person. We're talking about the workers building the Giza pyramids getting paid in part with a daily ration of beer. But wine, that was a whole different story. That was for the elite, the royals. It was so valuable they even buried hundreds of jars of it with kings for the afterlife. What you drank literally showed who you were. And if you look around the world, you see all these different cultures using alcohol in totally different ways to keep social order. For the Aztecs, their drink pulque was so strong that only priests and people over 70 could drink it. Super strict. Then you hop over to ancient Rome, and wine is for everyone. Slaves, peasants, you name it. And then there are the Nainite people in Siberia, where taking a sip of spirits isn't just an option, it's an obligation to the spirit world. You can't refuse. You see, it was way more than just a beverage. It was a tool. So for thousands and thousands of years, that was the deal. Alcohol was this sacred, vital thing. You just had to manage correctly. So what changed? How did we go from this gift from the gods to a massive public health crisis? When did the conversation shift from alcohol to alcoholism? Let's dig into the other side of this coin, the sickness and the stigma. Because the thing is, this change in how we thought about alcohol, it wasn't a slow burn. It was a complete reinvention, almost overnight, driven by huge changes in technology and society. And if you want to understand the modern view, you really have to start with the data. The World Health Organization has this metric, they call them DALYs, which basically measures the total burden of a disease, not just deaths, but years of life lost to disability. And when you look at the numbers, alcohol-related harm is responsible for 3.5% of that entire global burden. That is a massive number, a cost that ancient cultures just didn't have the tools to see. Now, this didn't come out of nowhere. The real turning point was distillation. Suddenly, you could make super strong liquor, and it was cheap. A perfect example is the gin epidemic back in 18th century London. This stuff flooded the city, and the damage was just impossible to ignore. It wasn't just about a few people getting drunk anymore. It looked like society itself was breaking down. And this chaos led to a brand new idea, especially in North America. People started asking, hey, what if this isn't a moral failing? What if it's not a sin? What if it's a disease? And that idea, the disease model of alcoholism, changed everything. It reframed the whole problem. It said that for some people, drinking isn't a choice, but a progressive loss of control, a medical issue. There's a reason this disease model is still so dominant today. I mean, the entire medical profession accepts it. It's the foundation for groups like Alcoholics Anonymous. But really, it's so powerful because it does two huge things. It takes away some of that moral shame, and it gives a clear path for treatment. It's a really useful idea, even if, it's not the only way to look at it. Because here's the catch. This disease isn't some universal scientific fact. It's a cultural idea. Here in North America, we tend to think of it as a problem with the individual. It's about their psychology. But in a place like France, they've often seen it differently. It's not an individual problem, it's a problem of custom. It's about the entire nation's drinking habits. See the difference?
And of course, this stigma has never been spread around evenly, not by a long shot. Women's drinking in particular has always been judged way more harshly. Back in the 19th century, a woman drinking was seen as a threat to the entire home, to her respectability. And honestly, you can still see echoes of that anxiety today, right? Just look at how intoxicated women are often portrayed in movies and on TV. It's often linked to some kind of moral failing. Okay, so what are we left with? It's like we're caught between these two completely opposite stories. On one hand, you have this ancient, sacred history, and on the other, you've got this modern story of disease and stigma. And the truth is, they're both right. There's just no single, simple answer when it comes to alcohol. So we're kind of living in this permanent state of tension with it. Look, it still acts as a sacred unifier for a lot of people. It's absolutely a powerful social glue, pretty much everywhere. And yet, at the exact same time, it's a massive public health burden. It's all of those things, all at once. And that is the paradox in a nutshell. For a Nanai shaman in Siberia, that sip of spirits is about connecting with another world. It's about unity. But for an epidemiologist at the WHO, that exact same ethanol molecule is just a number. It's a data point contributing to a global disease pattern. It is the exact same substance seen through two completely different lenses, and both are valid. You know, we're definitely not the first to wrestle with this dilemma. Listen to this. It's from a Chinese commentator writing more than 2,600 years ago. He basically says, people will not do without beer, that trying to ban it completely is impossible, even for the wisest people. The point was never about getting rid of it. The real question has always been, how do we live with it? And that ancient challenge is still our challenge today. We've inherited this incredible 13,000-year-long story, a story of sacred rituals and social disease, of community and of chaos. We're living inside that paradox every single day. So the only real question left is, what's the next chapter of our story going to look like?